Hey guys, welcome to an extra special and long edition of Man of 1004 Bumps. It has been a long time coming, but finally after 2.5 weeks without Wednesday training, we finally have gone back to our first training. We've come through holidays, we've come through the event now, we've come through the special training session with Robbie E. Obviously all of that's going to be covered, and finally we are back in the ring again and training, and it feels so good to be back in the ring again, and so good to be back at training. We had just a few things about training. We had, I think, the best numbers we've seen for quite a while in terms of people that have rocked up to training. Everyone's of course back from overseas. The few people that were away during the WrestleMania season have now obviously returned from the States and are back, and it's really nice to have them back at training, and it's a really good feeling to sort of have full class, even though it does make warm-ups and things like that a little bit packed in tight. What is going on here? I'm having a bit of a tough time driving through the streets. Okay. I can't go this way. I'm gonna have to go that way. Gonna break a little bit of the law here. Okay. So let's start with the event, which was a lot of fun. Everyone got to participate in a few different things. It was interesting to see how people worked with, and this is specifically in the main event, which had Robbie versus the Israeli champion, which is the Black Leopard. And definitely seeing that was an interesting battle, because they had no time to prepare that match. I specifically know that as much as they spent the time together, it was with everyone together, and it was mainly sort of showing Robbie around the country and obviously building a rapport and getting him introduced to sort of what it was like in this country, which would have made for an interesting experience for him. I know that he had a few sort of experiences where he got the sort of local mentality was a bit rough on him. So I'm still trying to find out how I can get through here. But more than that, it was an interesting event. We also got to ask him a few questions and just say what was essentially going on with him. He, from his point of view, wasn't such an exciting person to get, as much as he is someone that has obviously he's a part of Impact Wrestling at the moment and has won championships both in the tag divisions and in the singles division, and certainly he's got a wealth of experience, which is certainly interesting to hear from. And he's wrestled some fantastic wrestlers and some great names in the industry. He was recently in a match with Lawler. He's been in a match with Sting, and I think there was also a point where he was in a match with Hogan as well. I think, I'm not 100% sure on that, but it was in general a good night. I think that a lot of the fights they had were people that had come back from overseas because they were in the US for WrestleMania. There were people that had their matches changed slightly and they were working with different opponents than I think they were used to, so the tempo was a little bit off for the workers, and I think that we could tell, but there were still some amazing spots that happened in the match that were very memorable, specifically a turnbuckle bomb suplex as well, with the three people there. That was pretty impressive, and that was followed up by Max Havoc coming off the corner and going into it. That was great. Then on the Friday we had the session, the seminar with Robbie E. That was also something that was interesting. I mean, we started off with a QA session. He's not he's not someone I would consider a particularly good talker. I mean, on the mic he's very charismatic. The speech that he gave towards the crowd and every point that he left, he always made aware, and his knowledge on cutting promos, but in terms of asking him questions and getting excited, it was sort of a mix of people in the crowd not comfortable speaking English, and I think him not sort of being what you expected in terms of a wrestler. When you ask a wrestler, what you expect when you ask a wrestler, like, what's your favorite match? It's usually you have, like, someone that you want to fight, like, someone that you want to be in the ring with, especially in someone in his position where he's working for a big company. It's not like, yeah, I dream of working one day with this. He has had the opportunity to work with guys, and he doesn't have a favorite match. He doesn't have anybody that he has on a bucket list, which is unusual, I guess, for most wrestlers who come as a wrestling fan. And he sort of spoke as if there was no distinction between wrestling any regular sort of person on a weekly episode of Impact as compared to wrestling against Sting and Lawler and those guys. And he basically said, whoever I can learn from is good for me. And look, I understand that. I mean, for him, it's turned into a job. It's turned into a profession. And that's his perspective on it. And for the first time, we sort of got into the ring, and it was the first time I've been in the ring where it's been, let's get some light in here, because that's a bit better. Where it was sort of a fight-like situation, in the sense that we were building the beginning of a fight, and we were also starting to do domination pieces. So one person would have to fight out as a babyface, and then there's the other person that would have to stay on them as a heel. And that character work, not in charisma, not on the microphone. I mean, it's one thing to cut a promo where you can have character work, but this is the first time I've been introduced to physical character work. And that's definitely an interesting thing, and how you carry your body and things like that. That was really the main thing that I took out of Robbie. He spoke a lot about tempo, which is something that most of us, including the intermediate guys, didn't get. I think for us, most of us are sort of just interested in getting through a match. We don't have the point where we're trying to tell a story in our match even. I think for me especially, I was just sort of, I want to make sure that I get the moves that I know and make sure that I don't fuck anything up, and that's sort of the main thing for me to get through in a contest like that. And look, outside of that, it was interesting to sort of get that experience in the ring, and sort of work an actual match was definitely a new experience, and definitely something I enjoyed. Skipping forward, we had 2 weeks out with no lessons, though we did have a review session on last Sunday to just go over the event, and that was interesting from the other perspective of the fact that we got together as a group, we went through the matches, we sort of identified the spots for improvement, and spoke about how it's important to watch it in the sense of you're not looking at it from the perspective of a fan, but the perspective of someone that wants to improve for their next time. And that was definitely an interesting experience in going through the matches and looking specifically at, look, this is the sort of technique that you need to fix, and things like that, and what makes logical sense in terms of a storyline, which I don't think I've ever thought of while watching any other wrestling, which does make it a little different. And then today, finally, we get back to today's lesson, and today was a big session. Like I said, we had the most people that we've had in a while. We had a new guy come in, and we started speaking. They're now talking about how they're getting more focused towards the academic, the academia, or the student show, which will be my debut. I'm looking forward to it. I'm already starting to sort of try and sell tickets, even though none of the details are known. I'm just trying to get people through that door. at this rate, we're gonna have no room. It's just gonna be my people. We're gonna sell out. It's gonna be like the whole of the companies that I work for, and my family will be there, which would be pretty special. Aside from that, we had a new lesson, which was striking, so we can now brawl. We did forearms and kicks. Forearms really hurt after a while, not in the sense of receiving them, obviously, because you're protected, but giving them after a while, because there's no holding back. You're hitting them with the softest part, and it is stiff, and my whole forearm was red all the way up, and it stung. I mean, receiving it felt a little better, because it really wasn't painful at all. Obviously, that's the point. But there was a point where I was just hitting the guy forearm after forearm over the back, and it was just like that slap, like that really painful slap. It was actually quite painful for me, but that was pretty funny. And we also did kicks, which was really good. A lot of sort of what I need to work on is my technique of selling and not being lazy in that. It's too easy to fall into the trap, and we did that also in the ring, and also sending to corners. We worked on that a bit, and bumps. But the most sort of out of nowhere thing about this week and the training this week was the fact that we were joined by a very, very special guest in Jerry Royf. I don't know if you guys know him, but he's essentially the guy that brought pro wrestling into Israel. He's the founder of the IPWA. He's also trained most of the wrestlers in both the IWL and in Israel in general. And it was really weird walking in to the training, like walking into the sort of headquarters, I guess, and seeing him and being like, he looks really familiar, but I don't know where from. And then he got introduced at the start of the training, saying that he was there to come visit and check out. And it was there was like a little bit of tension, because he had trained my trainer, and now he was participating in a lesson, which I think, like, even from people watching, it was a little tense and a little sort of really difficult to follow. But having him there was really interesting, and the way that he went into every single thing, a little bit overselling, which I mean, I don't know how to take that. I don't know this guy. I don't know what he's like. I've heard stories. I know about his relationship with some of the people there. Everyone was happy to see him, so it's not like an aggressive thing. But there was that little bit of awkwardness, which made it a little bit weird. But it is nice for a guy like that to be coming out to an event like ours. It really sort of brings, hopefully, the community together. It is ridiculous that there, in a country as small as this, is 3 wrestling promotions. That just doesn't make sense. But I mean, the fact that he doesn't have his own wrestling promotion definitely helps us. And look, if he can get involved in that as well, and sort of some of the bridges can be repaired, hopefully. But look, now working forward, it's going to be very much about learning for the show. Part of me is really happy that a lot of people have come back, and it's a lot of sort of the more advanced guys that we can work with. It was actually funny because we were trying to split into the still beginners group and the advanced guys, and the amount of guys that just wanted to work with me was really nice on my behalf, and it was sort of just fighting people up, just going, no, I'm going to work with this guy, I'll work with you next time, I swear I'll work with you. So it was very funny working, because especially the guys at the top of that group aren't going to get a chance to work with me. I feel like I'm in a weird position, because as much as I'm in the new group, there are guys that are going to be in that academy show that are considered newer than me, or considered greener than me in terms of ability in the ring and ring work. So as much as I would really like to work with one of those guys that just is proven in the ring, has been doing this for a lot longer than me, so I can sort of rely on them. That's probably not going to happen. That's probably not going to happen. So there's that, and that'll be fine. I mean, I'll work with whoever I need to work with, and hopefully produce the best match possible, and hopefully our styles will mix well. But yeah, also a part of me is like, I really hope we get lower numbers in the coming weeks, because there was too many people. There was like no space in the warm-up. There was like, we got 5 seconds each to sort of do individual stuff, and that was about it. And I think that's, I mean, it's great for the promotion, but in terms of working on improving, it's not as good as having sort of the smaller numbers. I think mainly we need to get a more even distribution of the groups. I mean, it was good when it was just the two of us, because the two groups, but now we've sort of joined the intermediate course, and there are people that could have stayed back and kept doing the beginners, but it's not my call. Anyway, that ends this week's mega episode of Man of 1,004 Bumps. Thank God this is over. I've now covered essentially 3 weeks of training material, including an event, including a special seminar with a professional wrestler, with a professional wrestler, including my first ever event review session, including a special guest in this week's training session, and including the new stuff that we've learned. And obviously from there, we're going to be doing more brawling technique, which is something that's good, and something that we've told we can start practicing outside of the training session. So when we get there early, we'll be able to do practice some of the brawling, because previously, obviously, we're usually in the studio beforehand, not on the pads, so it's not like you're gonna practice a back body drop or a body slam or a suplex onto a hardwood floor. So they're like, as long as you keep your voices down, you can start practicing brawling before training, and that means we can go on it twice a week and really make sure that it's at the level that it needs to be. And yeah, that's it. And that's done. Thank you very much for watching this incredibly long episode. I promise that it will go back to its normal length now that we've got a regular schedule. There's going to be a slight problem in the next coming weeks with holidays. We are being told that everything is remaining normal in terms of training schedules. Hopefully that's true. And from there, yeah, we're just gonna wait to find out. Until next week, when there will definitely be a training session, because there's no holiday next week, it's only the Sunday. That's it from Man of 1,004 Bumps. Until next time, catch ya.